Cost of Victory, Book 1 of the Unseen Scar series by C.R. Saxon. Chapter 7. Ah, I win! Oya slowed her bare feet, turning her run into a twirl. Fair and square, I believe, Ferdinand panted, giving her a bow once he stopped. Okay, time for half of your surprise. I already... A wave of her hand interrupted him. From her pocket she retrieved a small wooden box and handed it over. He'd never seen anything like it. The moment she placed it in his palm, he felt... It was like meeting a long-lost friend, someone he'd been impossibly close with. They knew everything about each other, like a mother knows her child. A broken kind of something warmed Ferdinand's heart. There was no logical reason, but he knew down to his very soul this little cube's contents were the most important thing in the world. This doesn't belong to me. It belongs to her. But every cell in his body said it was his. His heart beat with an impossible warmth. Is this what joy feels like? But why? Why do I feel this way? I've never seen it before. What is this? More than you deserve. Here. Taking it back, Oya showed him how to open it. Inside was a transparent cube no more than an inch wide. Taking it out and closing the box, she placed the cube in a small indention on the lid. Flipping a switch flush with the wood made a light glow out the top, forming a kind of screen. Seeing the cube activated, Ferdinand recognized it. This is ancient technology. How long ago did they use these? 700 years, give or take? So, why? The glow of that screen called to him. It begged to be studied and understood. No, that wasn't right. It's pleading to be remembered. It took licking dry lips before Ferdinand realized anticipation had quickened his breath. But, for all he could see, it was just him and the hidden knowledge that cube wanted to share. Wouldn't it be repulsed by you? Most of what he saw was alien, but the Tinkerer knew enough to recognize most of these were extinct languages. Thousands upon thousands of extinct languages. What is this? A golden-brown hand reached in and manipulated the screen, only to touch an icon. A box appeared with a seemingly endless list. Scrolling a moment, delicate fingers tapped one of the many items, and music filled the air. This wasn't anything he'd ever heard before. The sounds were so foreign. What instruments are these? Oddity only increased when singing began. Aundo characters danced across the light, translating the lyrics. What religion has this kind of music? Both the tone and the words indicated this wasn't a religious song, but only songs of worship were allowed lyrics. The religion of nu metal, I guess. Giggles filled the air as he tried parroting the word back to her. Just because there are words doesn't make it worship. His chest seized. This music. It was far older than the cube it played from. If what she said was true, this shouldn't exist. Where did you get this? That's an interesting story, she said. Its contents are old, but it'd be new to anyone here. Yeah. Ferdinand scrolled through the list, finding a language he recognized. The song changed. It sounded angry and remorseful, but he understood the words. Partly. There wasn't much he could do for slang or time-specific references. Please teach me how to use this. Taking back the box, Oya placed it gently on the ground, music still playing, crazed smirk glowing. There's something else I want to teach you first. And what would that be? Intrigue coated his words, but his attention was elsewhere. That cube was forbidden, its contents improper. This was destroyed when the council was formed, wasn't it? There was no describing how much he wanted to scour it. How does she have this? And why is she sharing such a treasure with me? Mischievousness glowed at him. You're feeling pretty good now? I haven't felt this well in a while. All he saw was her Cheshire grin before a perfect void consumed his hand. Granted, he might have seen her spin and throw a kick if he'd known to look for it, but he was surprised by the void consuming him. Her ankle was in his grip, stopped just before colliding with his face. Her impish smirk melted away. Jumping back, he dropped her leg, banishing the nothingness she emanated. His chest constricted and his stomach twisted in knots. How was a tinkerer able to react so quickly? Ferdinand swallowed hard. Words failed him as he watched her assemble a puzzle he hadn't realized she found the pieces too. I was going to teach you some basic self-defense, but I see that's unnecessary. What do I do? What do I do? She was so fast he couldn't stop himself from reacting. Everything was falling apart. How do I stop this? How do I fix it? No one can know. His racing heart and mind reached impossible speeds. Then she did something unexpected. Oya walked over to a small flowering bush and started talking about something completely different. That cube's a family heirloom. I'm sure you can tell these aren't proper, as deemed by that stupid council of centuries past. Orange and red and pink flowers stood proudly, showing off their colors, but Oya picked a small yellow one. Why are you saying this? Ferdinand walked over as she put the flower behind her ear. The yellow stood out beautifully against the shiny black hair, but somehow only emphasized those impossible blood-red roots. To make things even, your face says it all. I wanted to help. I didn't mean to steal your secret. I don't understand why you'd hide something so awesome. It's common enough here, but I can accept you feel threatened, in danger, by my knowing. So, if the wrong person knew what I have, how I got it, you know what'd happen. But, reintroducing our past to the world a little at a time, I doubt anyone would figure it out. What? Ferdinand sat next to her. No one can know. Being a fighter is my cousin's role. I just want to create things. I don't like hurting people. You may want to create, and you may not want to hurt others, but you do want to fight, or you wouldn't run away from it so intently. This struck a nerve, an important one from the looks of it. I don't want to make your life harder, but here on this little rock, there's no eyes. I want to fight the person who blocked my kick. Please don't ask me that. Ferdinand turned away. Why? Because. Because? I can't. And why's that? A strange harshness filled Oya's tone. Because it's a stronger craving than running. I can't. I don't know if I can handle it. What do you mean? It's a craving, giving in. A touch of anger colored Oya's voice. You're afraid you won't be able to stop yourself? Is that why you take those beatings? What? How does she know about that? I'm afraid, but that's not why I take them. Then why? You've no right to ask. A cold, hard glare drove home Ferdinand's words. This argument was his fault. Things always ended this way. It's why no one wanted to be around him. It's why they only dealt with him when there was no other choice. But at least now she'd finally realize how useless he was and go find friends. So, at least there was some benefit to this. Shivering, Oya jumped to her feet, looking down at him. And why not? It's not a simple thing. Mimicking her, he stood. Proving a point, she threw a punch like lightning, which he blocked with great effort. How is she so fast, so strong? Is she a fighter? But everything else she can do. Here, there's only you and me. It's that simple. He narrowly dodged her next blow, and the next, and the one after that. Why are you doing this? He caught her fist and twisted her arm behind her back. Utter emptiness consumed his hand and creeped up his arm. Slithering free, she flashed him a toothy grin. Water may fill the belly, but without food the body will die. Did she guess this as well? All the things no one knew. Why couldn't I keep them from her? Someone I just met. Someone who knows nothing of my world. Things I keep hidden from everyone, even myself. The more she attacked, the more his conviction wavered. The joy of fighting. It was intoxicating, leaving him all but salivating. She moved at near lightning speed, not giving him time to think, only react. Blow after blow, Ferdinand countered until he blurted, I can't be caught. Without notice, Oya stopped. You won't regret this compromise. Now, show me what you can do. I expect a good challenge. As requested, he gave her his all. Not only was she fast, but the void that was her very being left him tense every time they came into contact. Still, he held his own, for as fast as she was, he was faster. Gritting from the unpleasantness of her touch, he moved, strike after strike. Was he hitting her too hard? She was smirking, so maybe not. He swung and kicked harder. I'm hurting her. She has to be in pain. But that grin didn't waver. Then came a perfect opening. As she spun back, landing from her latest kick, he slipped in. Crouching low, Ferdinand rocketed straight up with her heel in his hand. The sudden force flipped her over, landing flat on her back, jarring her brain and knocking the air from her lungs. Do you concede the fight? He asked, chest heaving, blood rushing, adrenaline pumping. As much as it scared him, he enjoyed this. He didn't want to hurt her, but he wanted nothing more than for her to stand and continue. Laughter rang out, originating from the depths of her soul. Its purity, the joy filling it. It brought him down from his primal desires. It drew him in until he was also laughing. You win! When was the last time you fought someone? Never. It's forbidden. But he needed to be fast and sharp enough to not react to his cousin. At times his speed let him make minor adjustments to minimize the damage he'd take. I've seen many fights, and the things I do keep my reflexes sharp. You should switch classifications with your cousin, but he couldn't possibly make it as a tinkerer. Ice filled Ferdinand's gut, turning his words frigid. I forbid that, even here. I won't say it again, she grinned. Thank you. The bristles from Oya's callous remark eased at her concession. Ferdinand? Reaching over, she picked up the cube and stopped the music. You're going to fail again. The voice jarred him, drawing his mind to something he almost realized. Yes? Why is fighting your cousins alone? She faced him squarely. He'll become general of our armies when he's an adult. Not you? It's a position for a prince, not a lord. It's a position of competence. Then you should stop him. Stop him from what? What am I missing? He'll never become a competent leader if you allow him to keep beating you. Blinking, Zephyr found his arm held high above his head and a young child shrinking away from him, and Tilia's worried face not 2 inches from his own. Huh? Answer me, she shouted. Answer what? This startled response was all he could manage. Releasing him, Tilia brought a hand to her chest as if pressing her heart back into place. Then she turned and addressed the dozen younger students. Class dismissed. Terrified children stood frozen until Tilia gently pushed the cowering boy toward the door. She doesn't teach a class. Those are my students. Once the room was empty, Tilia spoke again, but she didn't turn to face him. I've never been so scared in my life. What's wrong with you? Excuse me? Looking around, Zephyr searched for a clue. The sun. It was high in the sky. But I woke up a few minutes ago. What's going on? Why did you attack your students? She turned and glared at him. If we hadn't been nearby, you would have hurt them. We? Another search of the room revealed 2 other fighters, both from his platoon. Bob Dosey and Tan Wern. They were nursing sore spots. No. What? The fear in that single word threw her off. Mouth hanging open, Zephyr tried thinking while his hands recounted what he knew. The last thing he remembered was preparing for a run. How did I lose half a day? His heart raced, and his body ached from a pain not quite there. What's going on? When Ferdinand finally arrived, Zhao all but jumped him with something between a hug and a death strangle, sharp talons digging deep. All the while, Oya stood on the threshold grinning. Delicate fingers tugged at the thin silver chain around her neck. Grabbing the lead's ear and twisting, Ferdinand forced the older boy to release him, liberating his nerves from those tearing talons. Calm down, Zhao Zi. What's everyone come up with? We've been waiting on you, John grumbled. Ferdinand's eye twitched. Brushing the science lead away, he made his way to the front of the room, tripping over a stool. Oya snorted and rolled her eyes, but no one seemed to hear her. Sighing, he sat on top of the table, drawing everyone's attention. A long, long, long time ago, when there were still 7 continents, longer still, before the air became poison and the nations weren't deeply connected, mankind learned how to combine various explosive powders and chemicals. We've been enjoying fireworks ever since. Fireworks aren't a good idea, Ferdinand. We'll be indoors, Zhao exclaimed in alarm. Quite the speaker you are. Taking a deep breath, Ferdinand released it and continued. Zhao can't be that stupid. Thinkers were different from tinkerers, but neither kind of scientist lacked intelligence. Is he playing the fool? Sun and fire were our only light. Then we made the light bulb. For millennia now, almost every device uses a built-in light source of some kind. Do any of you know the difference between math and music? John's ears perked despite the murmurs and objections. Oye just shared this strange sentiment with him moments earlier. Heart. Music's what happens when you give math heart. We have all the talent and knowledge needed to astonish everyone. Get out of your tiny box. The universe is nearly infinite. How is your view so small? Have you bothered reading the Welcome Show's description? It states we use our abilities to showcase the strengths and talents of everyone on the islands. We should follow it. That's what scientists are good at, right? Following instructions. Start with the first part. We use our abilities, our talents, and our knowledge. Does a pathetic child like you have any? No one wants to sit through a lecture on scientific theory or watch us put things together, an older girl objected. How many practical inventions were later used for entertainment purposes? This silenced the murmurs. There's someone who will help us look past the surface and into the possibilities. She'll force you out of your comfort zone. This is my only suggestion. If you don't like it, then come up with something on your own. In this room sit the best minds on the island. This should not be difficult for you. The look on John's face said he wondered how much people annoyed Ferdinand. Who did you get to help us? Turning back to the doorframe, Oya wasn't there. Maybe stilling her words annoyed her. Or maybe she just didn't want to be introduced yet. It hasn't been decided if we're going with my plan. Even if we do, you won't find out today. Keep everyone in the dark. Don't let them see. That's a little unreasonable, don't you think? Zhao complained. This whole thing's unreasonable. Forcing me to fulfill your responsibilities is unreasonable. Expecting one person to carry this out is unreasonable. Wasting time in this room when we should be working is unreasonable. Do you have any other complaints? Ferdinand said coldly. No. That left Zhao looking very much like a young child who'd been caught slacking on his chores. Things turned out exactly as expected, much to Ferdinand's chagrin. Despite protests, he scheduled another meeting in a few days to give them the information they'd need. Grumblings came when he told them they'd be working over break. A stern look quickly put that to an end. The tinkerer dismissed the group, but not everyone rushed out. Making them take time from their studies and projects this late in the block is harsh, John frowned. Maybe, but I feel no sympathy, Ferdinand grumbled, rubbing at his unhappy stomach. I completed everything despite being gone for 3 months. They shouldn't have waited till the last minute. You think rather highly of yourself. Wow, you aren't sounding like yourself, Ferdinand, Zhao pointed out. How am I sounding? Mean. That isn't something I'm used to. At least not from you. These are no good, Ferdinand insisted, allowing a little anger to play in his voice. Have you looked at them at all? They were taken and shipped directly here. Those samples are less than 2 days old. Even if the virus is dead, there should still be plenty to work with. Doesn't she understand what useless means? Are they certain these were taken from infected persons? The frustration from unusable samples, coupled with being talked to like a spoiled child, was wearing quickly on him. Yes, half of them were taken from persons showing symptoms, just as you requested. Nodding, Ferdinand connected his scanner to the comm system. Though his irritation leaked through stronger than he'd intended, he managed to keep the snark out of his question. Then would you be kind enough to point out the virus? Getting off the table, Ferdinand sat on the stool and placed his head on the cool, still surface. I sound mean. That's what I get for giving in when I know better. Yet, he almost felt calm, more so than he had in years. I'm tired. Evil child. It's not even curfew for the first years, Zhao pointed out dumbly. Getting sick again? Yes. Ferdinand stood and left the room, nearly running into Oya on the way out. As he apologized, a voice of a scientist 4 years his junior reached his ears. What put him in such a bad mood? Normally he blends into the wall. Actually, Zhao's voice sounded both thoughtful and amused. He looked almost happy. I wonder why. What's that idiot talking about?